Welcome to the Free to Soar podcast. My mission is to inspire, empower, and equip heart-centered, mission-driven, kingdom-minded business owners to show up freely and fully as the brilliant, powerful change makers that you are, so that you can lead the business and the life of your dreams. You'll enjoy vulnerable, authentic conversations with me and other heart-centered, mission-driven leaders that will spark your heart and ignite your passion to powerfully transform you, your business, and your life from the inside out. Your next level of impact and income is about unleashing the fullness of you, reprogramming your limiting beliefs and patterns, tapping into and trusting your inner wisdom, and harnessing God's power within you so that you can unlock new possibilities in your business and your life. And this show brings it to you. Step with me into a God-powered reality wilder than your wildest dreams, with freedom, impact, abundance, and enjoyment that you were created for. Let's go. Well, we're back for another episode of the Free to Soar podcast, and I'm excited that you guys are back with us today. And if it's your first time, welcome. And we are hopefully just becoming a little community here, and we want to invite you to deepen your connection to this community by listening, by sharing, by enjoying the resources that are available in the show notes. We'll check those out also. So today we've got another treat with another Christian business owner who is one of my absolute favorite people. I have gotten to know her over the last probably year, and her name is Michal LeBaron, and she is quite the healer. And I can't wait for you to hear her story. She owns Chronic Illness Solutions, or Chronic Illness Solution. And I just want to welcome her to the show, and then I'll introduce you to her in just a few minutes. But Michal, welcome. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to play with you and all the listeners, and I'm so glad to be here. So thanks.
Yes, we're going to have fun. And I know you have so much to share, and you guys are really going to be inspired by her story and what she is putting out into the world. So can't wait to dive into that. So without further ado, here we go. We're going to, I'll introduce her, and then we'll dive right in. With 14 years of personal experience, and I can't wait for you to hear her story. Michal leads a team of functional medicine and holistic practitioners that believe in finding and addressing the root cause of the problem, rather than providing the Band-Aid approaches and the protocols. And we'll talk more about that. Using a breakthrough approach centered around nervous system regulation, one of my favorite things to talk about, Chronic Illness Solution specializes in helping those with autoimmune, with genetic, and with pain disorders. And again, welcome, Michal, and thank you for being here. And let's talk about that. I mean, that pretty much, wraps it up in a nutshell, but there's so much to dive into and understand about that. And my first question for you is, how did you get called into this? The 14 years of personal experience. Tell us about your story. Share a little bit of your story with us, and how God turned your pain into your purpose.
I love it, Connie. And
yeah,
I love the opportunities to share with all of you. And thank you so much for listening. I feel like we are not told in this world what is really possible in the world of healing. And I think that, yes, we've heard it said, oh, your body can heal itself, or, oh, God can do anything, right? And then it's like, well, okay, great. Well, where's the proof of that in real life?
Right.
And I'm living proof of it in real life. So I had symptoms ever since I was little, on and off, but the doctors always said I was normal. Like there was nothing that could have a name or a label or a whatever, right? And so a lot of that just got ignored, dismissed. We tried different things over the years, but it got so bad that in my early teenage years, I was bedridden for years. My mom said that it was like caretaking a 90-year-old woman. I resembled how I walked, she needed to help me at one point, help me get dressed, help me walk, help me bathe, help me with everything, because my body was just deteriorating and shutting down, and nobody knew why. And so I think first off was just this, where does faith come in? I guess it's just this thing in you that doesn't give up,
Yeah.
and keeps seeking answers. So, I found functional medicine in that, found some other amazing holistic modalities, and it kind of helped me address some of the imbalances in my body. And that was a miracle in and of itself. I became very passionate about like, oh, did the doctor test this? Did they test that? I bet they didn't do this. I bet, they didn't even mention that, did they? Like picking
Yeah.
apart the regular doctors and unfortunately the broken medical system that we're in, right? Because insurance won't cover that. So why do it? And then you're just without answers. But for
That's
me,
right.
when I advocated for myself and learned to advocate and how I needed to advocate, I was able to get the right tests that showed with total clarity. Oh, it's an autoimmune disease. That was easy. Oh, I have a genetic disorder. I don't know why the doctors didn't say anything about that. But it's been there in my blood work the whole time, things like this of just really eye-opening discoveries. Oh, I have food allergies. I have this, that, the other. Well,
Sure.
while I looked normal on the outside, which yes, was miraculous, and I'm so grateful at everything I learned. But if you had a bird's eye view of what my life looked like behind the scenes of everything I had to do and micromanage and avoid and custom tailor to myself in order just to function, from the food to the right water to air purification to supplements and herbs to, just the timing. I can't go more than 3 hours without eating. And then it has to be certain this. And then I can't go out to eat and I can't travel and I have to go to bed on time because my adrenals are fragile. And, there was this old movie about a boy. I think it might be called The Bubble Boy. I'd have to look it up, but he was a boy that lived in a bubble because his immune system was so fragile, right? I'm like, people would joke that was me because it pretty much was. And so that was not liberation. That was not healing. That was like learning to manage, cope with, and struggle with being sick. But at least I wasn't bedbound. Well, something in me said this isn't it. There's got to be more. And this isn't what being healthy looks like. And I don't know what I'm missing, but I really want to know what I'm missing. And that's what caused me to seek what else is there. And I contacted one of these ladies that I had heard about for a few years that was nagging at my soul. And she's like, oh yeah, she had gotten rid of 5 autoimmune diseases. She could eat real food like gluten again. And when I first heard those things, I was very resigned and cynical. I was like, just wait, that's not possible, blah, blah, blah. I didn't realize that I had become so resigned and how much hope I had given up. But she's one of the ones I reached out to, and she talked to me all about the nervous system. And so I really went into, how do I get out of survival mode and how do I learn to live in a regulated, peaceful, balanced state where my body's healing itself all the time. That made sense. If I could get there, I think my body would be doing much better. And
absolutely. Well, I talk about that all the time, and that we settle for striving, struggling, stress, stuck survival rather than living in dominion over circumstances. Living the life that we were created for is promised to us, but not nobody. Now there are people that do, but when we were younger, there were very few people teaching how to actually do that. How do I live the victorious life over death, darkness, and destruction? How do I heal? How do I live in victory and dominion rather than in the constant struggle and survival? And we do learn to live in survival, and we stay there until we learn something different. And so I won't interrupt you more, but I'm so passionate about this because that was my journey, and it wasn't a health issue, but it was my journey in a whole lot of other ways that I had to learn to look at. I was not regulated and resourced. But go ahead.
Oh, no, I love what you're saying because it's so true. And it's like we're all told about these concepts, but we are never shown how to embody them.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yes. And so it's like, did I really learn anything new? not conceptually, but experientially, an entirely different world, an entirely different way of operating.
Yep.
And also, it's not just living over our circumstances, but being so slowed down that you can actually be in tune with intuition, which God has given us as a gift, right?
Yes.
That is a gift. And being able to listen when the Holy Spirit's talking, and being able to listen when that something is off, and being able to listen to the still small voice that says, that's one too many things for today. Or, oh, I think my child needs this change in the schedule instead. Or, it's like really being able to live in tune. We cannot do that when we are sped up surviving and doing everything we think we should to be who we think we should be, which is totally an idealistic, completely false thing.
That's it. And we're falling for it hook, line, and sinker, and have no idea that we could really have something else. We feel so victim to what we know, what feels familiar and safe, or what we're told, or what the messages are, or what it's just, And we stay stuck there until we learn something new.
Absolutely. So fast forward in the story, it's like 12 and a half weeks later, my food allergies went away. I could eat anything. Foods that I had anaphylactic reactions to, I can now eat. I got off all my supplements, herbal remedies, all of the things. I, can drink tap water, whatever, not react. I can breathe car exhaust and not get a headache. All my tests are normal. Like, there's no sign of an autoimmune disease. Like, where did it go? I don't know. Where did it go? No sign of my genetic disorder. In most tests I've ever had run since I was a baby, this has shown up. Wow. And it's also normal. And it really woke me up to, oh my God, this is it. Like, there is another way, and total healing, complete healing, fully healthy is available to people. And the power is in our nervous systems. And so when we address how we're treating ourselves, how we're seeing ourselves, those lies that we've taken on, oh, I'm not good enough, and I'm not worth that, and I need to be a perfectionist, and I need to people please, and I need to be the good Christian girl, or whatever.
Oh, yes.
A lot of deprogramming, all of that crap, that I can be the powerful, woman warrior that I need to be, and the soft, feminine, whatever on the other days I need to be. It's like to really be the fullness of who God's created me to be, and to listen to that moment by moment. And for me, doing my best is now not some fixed standard of all the shoulds. It's like I'm slowing down and I am asking, what is in my heart? God will give you the desires of your heart. It's like, okay, what is in the highest good for me to do right now?
Yes.
What is it? Is it most supportive to my family to go to that thing we've been invited to? And knowing and trusting that inner answer, right? And letting it truly be led. I live like a purpose-filled life. We hear that all the time, but it's like a spirit-led life, right? It's like, no, literally though, literally when you listen, the answers are always there. And in my experience now, from looking at thousands and thousands of brain scans and MRIs and all the stuff I've learned in medicines and neuroscience and psychology, it's like our bodies give us indicators.
Yes.
Our spirits know, we feel it. There are always indicators that say, yes, this is healthy, and no, that's not. And when we don't listen, we build stress in our body, and it will come out somewhere.
That's exactly right. And I love that we speak the same language. You do it from helping the person dealing with and heal completely from, genetic and autoimmune and other disorders. And then I do it with people who are stuck in the stress and things aren't working for them in their business, and they don't understand why the lid's on their business and why they can't get where they want to get in their life, and why they're not seeing things happen, and why things feel so hard. And it all comes down to, it's the same solution. It's learning to regulate and resource your nervous system so that you're not living in survival, striving, and struggle constantly. And so that you're not overriding the constant messages that you get in your body that say, no, that's not really okay with me, but I'm continuing to do that because I think I have to, or I should, or I'm supposed to, or And if I don't please someone else or meet this expectation that overrides what my body is able to do, then I am going to lose out or be punished or miss out in some way. And that's how we live.
Yeah.
We live that way in our lives. We live that way in our health. We live that way in our relationships and in our business.
Yes.
And it doesn't work. And it just does not work for us. It works. It works to a certain point, and then the breakdown happens.
Yes.
And so how do you do it from what does it look like practically to help people heal their physical dis-ease by taking a look at the limiting beliefs in the nervous system? How does it, for I know how that works, but for listeners out there, like how, what is clue them into what does that look like?
Yes. And I think that's so ambiguous. So I thank you for asking.
Yes.
Gosh, I could talk for days, but to boil it
right. Yeah.
very simply, when we understand how our body works in a new way than what we're traditionally taught, it's almost like we learn the communication of the body, the language of the body, and then there are no mysteries. And so one of the best examples that I love to give, or stories that I love to give on this, just really shows how clear the communication can be if you know what you're looking for. Okay. So there was a German doctor who was a pioneer and actually showed a lot of what we end up doing. We don't do his work, but he kind of proved it true. And he actually got cancer 3 months after his son died in a freak accident. And it put him on this path of saying, I think there's a connection between what's going on in my life, how I'm perceiving life, and what my body is doing. Because a healthy man just doesn't get cancer in 3 months, right? So he began asking all of his cancer patients, I'm just curious, about 3 months before your diagnosis, did you have an unexpected, shocking, or challenging life event happen? When all of them said yes, he felt like it was probably a good thing to start looking into deeper. And so he started doing brain scans on them and MRIs and a whole bunch of other things. And what he found as a medical discovery is that there are lesions that look like circles or rings on the brain that correspond to whatever part of the body developed cancer or other diseases. And here was the crazy part as he began just taking everyone through this assessment process. Everyone, literally all of the people that had the same location of their brain affected and the same disease part of their body affected, the same part of their body, had the same kind of life event happen prior. And so he published his work with like over 40,000 case studies, and 40 of his colleagues duplicated that. And it was with 100% correlation and accuracy. Life event, location of the brain that developed the lesion, part of the body that developed the illness. And so he really showed such insight into how we perceive life is literally what affects our brain and then what affects our body. And so when we start unwinding this, and we do it in a free consult too, we don't want that. This doesn't take a long time. It's like one conversation for us to just take, okay, when did your chronic illness begin? What happened 3 to 6 months prior that was a life change? Doesn't mean trauma. It just means change. Marriage, changing homes, changing jobs. Maybe there was a promotion. Maybe there was a demotion. Maybe there was a kid that finally went off to school or whatever, right? Just a change. And we kind of say that, gosh, when we're in survival mode, we kind of just keep trying to adapt to all of these changes in life. And at some point, it's like overload. It's just one too many things. It's the straw that broke the camel's back. And so when we reach that tipping point of overload, that's a major life change that we didn't cope with. And we start a biological survival program. So if I'm perceiving life in one way, it's going to affect my stomach. If I'm perceiving I need to survive in a different way, it's going to affect my lungs. If I perceive life, that I couldn't cope with grief in some other part of me, then it's going to affect my spleen. And the beauty is there's been so much in science now, like over most of my lifetime, they've already been paving the way with this, that we actually know it in the science, in the brain scans. So we can help somebody find exactly what hidden unconscious perception they didn't cope with in life. And then what's driving that. And it always comes down to like some core belief that we got in childhood that's like, I'm not enough.
That's right.
Or I'm not smart, or I'm not capable, or I'm broken and
something's wrong with me.
Something's wrong with me. I'm not valuable. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. Whatever it is, I'm not enough.
Yes.
And when we develop those lies, it's like what we get this pair of goggles that we see life through, and we don't even know we see life through.
Yes.
And so for me, my major life change was like I was in a musical and then it ended. It was nothing traumatic.
Yeah.
So all my years trying to work through my trauma did nothing for my physical well-being. But when I learned this about the nervous system, I'm like, 3 to 6 months before? Okay, that's different. The only thing that happened was I was in this musical. So I had to really dig. And that was enough to give me an entire full-blown autoimmune disease that landed me bedridden for years. That had to have triggered something, right?
Yes.
And as I began looking, it triggered this deep sense of belonging. So this musical wasn't just a musical. It was this part of my life I absolutely loved. I finally found I found my like-minded friends, my like-minded community. And then it ended and I moved away and it was this missing in my life. And within 3 months, I was bedridden from an autoimmune disease.
Yes.
So this is like how we weave these answers together. It's like our body becomes one of our greatest spiritual teachers. And unfortunately, we demonize the body. And then I've had people do this, like when I was really sick, the elders from the church came over because the doctors couldn't figure it out. So they were trying to cast out demons.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Like, oh my God, clearly you don't have enough faith, or clearly there's demons, or clearly whatever. And it's just like, I want to educate people so much. It's a communication. It's a gift, and it's only our lack of understanding. But when we can understand it, it becomes our greatest teacher. There's no fear. And we can find exactly what's happening in the body, regardless of what it is. And then be like, okay, what is the unconscious program that's ruling the rest of your life too? It's affecting your relationships and your business and your finances and your parenting.
Absolutely.
What partners you pick and blah, blah, blah. It's affecting all that too. And your body's just trying to let you know.
Absolutely. Yes. And so for those of us who never developed per se an autoimmune disease that was, life shifting, but later on in life, ended up having early menopause or adrenal failure, or, just being stressed and not being able to, have healthy relationships, or seeing a disconnect in what I wanted versus where, and what God said about me and what is available to me versus what I was experiencing in reality, whether that was in my life, my relationships, my business, my finances, my whatever, it doesn't. And so it still is a nervous system back to the foundation of the nervous system, and back to the foundational belief that was inserted there that has caused the nervous system to get into dysregulation.
Yes.
Correct? And so sometimes it shows up as physical dis-ease. Well, it shows up in every case as physical dis-ease in some way. It's just a different levels of that, I guess. And it comes out at different times, but it also shows up in other areas of life. But whatever it is, it's that unconscious and subconscious programming that is running us that we have no idea. And we oftentimes don't even realize that we're stressed, or realize how traumatic the event was, or realize how it's just, but our body knows, and our body keeps the score.
Yes, it does.
Wow.
And I would say the majority don't know. Very few people are like, oh yeah, I totally know what happened 3 months prior and it was this big thing.
That was my next question is how do you help people? How do you help people? I know how I help people get to what that is for them in their other areas of life where they're feeling, but with physical health, which I don't do, how do you help them if they don't remember? How do you help them remember, or how do you help them know?
Yes. I always say it's just a conversation, and we're just really good at asking all the right questions,
Yeah.
And I tell
Yeah.
people it's in there, and it's
It's
just
in there.
I couldn't have found it on my own. I needed somebody to help me, right? Because it's like
Right.
I don't even know what I'm looking for. But
Of
what we
course
do
not.
is everybody. I always tell them, it's in there. Trust the process. It'll come to you.
Yeah.
It'll click when we're just being patient while the
Yes.
brain is searching for all the connections to make. It's like looking in the
Yes.
database and looking in the files, and then something will trigger and we'll ask the right question. They'll be like, oh my gosh, you know what? Like that's how it sounds,
Yes.
when they connect the
Yes.
dots. And so first we
It's
just are looking, what's the major life change? It's within that
mhm.
3 to 6 month window, usually 3 months. And then
Yep.
once you find it, it's usually totally different than what you think it could be. But once
Yep.
you know the life change, here's what we ask people. We say, okay, well, that just shook up your internal stuff. So it's not
Yeah.
even about the event. It's just if you can get in the memory and feel your body and kind of try to let what were the feelings that were going on in the background, in the back of your mind? What
Yes.
were those thoughts? And it's usually an insecurity, a
Yep.
doubt, a fear, or if it was a loss of something or like a life change where you moved away,
Yeah.
you lost a community or you lost a family member to a death. It's like, what
Yeah.
did you feel you lost? Like, what did they represent to you? Oh, a sense of being known, right? Or being
Yes.
seen or being accepted. So you can also
Yes.
look there. What do you feel you lost a sense of? And oh my goodness, that's what's missing inside is I'm not that. I'm not,
Yes. Because
accepted.
when we don't have those core longings met, the security, the belonging, the significance, the value, the sense of safety, when those core longings are not met, we're going to not feel, we're not going to be able to replace that with anything else other than we've got to go back and heal that longing that has been unmet. Well,
Yes.
we can't just run through that like we think we can and adapt. We do adapt, but we live in survival.
Yes, we maladapt. Thank you. And
It's
we create,
maladaptive.
yes, we create entire personalities that we live our
Right.
whole life
Absolutely.
literally to prove that deep negative thing false. Like
False.
it shocks
Exactly.
people when we're like, oh, you think you're unsupported? And they're
Right.
like, I'm not unsupported. My whole life, look, I have a large team at my job. Like they've spent their whole life trying to be supported, right? And we're like, oh yeah, it shows up the exact opposite in life than what that
That's
deep
exactly
seated
right.
thing
Yep.
is. And the beauty is when healing can come at that level and God's truth can take root in the heart and dispel the lies,
Yes.
right? Pluck out the weeds, plug out the
Yep.
lies. Then it's like, oh my gosh, the entire system relaxes.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, I don't
Yeah.
belong. Well, now I
Yes.
do. And I'm not seeking
Yes.
to belong. That's not even a problem. I can just go through my life with what feels good
Yes.
and what is appropriate. So
That's so true. And not react from that dysregulated, unresourced place that
yes.
is fear, urgency, lack, desperation, all the things, shame, doubt, all the things that
Yes.
we live from that we never realize that we do. Wow. So tell us just a few instances of, because you gave a great example a few minutes ago, and we won't, harbor or hang on this for a long time, but give us a couple of situations of, just really quickly, if you can think of like 2 to 3 of what you've seen, some transformations and
Oh,
some miracles that you've seen.
so many cool things. So
Yeah.
there was a gentleman who was diagnosed with HIV and given 3 months to live,
Wow.
who's fully healthy, was never supposed to have kids again, no sign of HIV, has a beautiful 6-year-old daughter and just thriving. So many things of like people that have been to the Mayo Clinic or Stanford's research medical team, right? And like they didn't get any help. And then they come through our program, they get clarity, they get healing. We've seen,
Wow.
my husband was supposed to be wheelchair bound in his mid-20s. He's now 40. No sign of his joint diseases that he had. He's a painter and beats up his body all day long. He uses his
Wow.
body all day long.
Yeah.
Last month, a woman who had a hole in the cartilage of her knee and was scheduled for knee surgery. 2 surgeons after her program could no longer find the hole, which is like medically that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? We've
Yeah.
seen MS lesions like that are supposed to be permanent go
Mhm.
away that stump the doctor.
Mhm.
So it's like there's nothing we haven't seen almost at this point.
Yeah.
So much of what we work with is all permanent and supposed to be lifelong, and there's nothing
Yes.
we can do to fix it. And then their bodies heal themselves, and it's just so remarkable. So
Yeah. It
thanks,
just
God, for
goes to
it.
show, that when we partner with anything in our will, unknowingly or knowingly, that is not lined up with our true identity and the truth of the word of God and what in our inheritance as a child of God, that we are going to get disease, death, and destruction and darkness of some sort. It is, but we have dominion over that. We can partner with truth and heal it and change it. So let me ask you, what is the role of, why does it matter to, how does faith and, the power of God, how does that enter into your work and your business that you do with people?
Such a good question. It's so
Yeah.
funny talking to people because, one of the things I get asked a lot, regardless of somebody's spiritual beliefs, is
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want this to mess with my spiritual beliefs. And I'm like, well, we can do this completely medical. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to insert my beliefs into, you know what I mean? Like, we
Yeah.
work with atheists and we work with agnostics and Mormons and Jews and polygamists. I mean, seriously, like we work
Sure.
with so many people. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It still works because of how we are designed, how our literal body.
Sure.
However,
Right.
oh my gosh, man, it's like, not only did my physical being become healthy, but my
Yeah.
perspective changes on such a deep level. So it's like
Yes.
my spirit awakens as I
Yes.
heal because my body spirit is all one, right?
That's
For
right.
which, whatever access it is for each person, that's fine. But,
Yes.
and what's beautiful is I feel like so many of the conceptual things that I grew up in the church. Because like all the stuff I memorized books of the Bible when I was in kindergarten, like
Oh,
seriously,
yes.
Mary, like, and it's just like
Totally.
it went from conceptual to embodied to
Right.
experienced. And it's
Yeah.
like pray without ceasing. It's like, yes, like literally, because you are that in tune, in constant communion and constant communication
Yeah.
with the Lord through the vessels, through the temple
That's
of
it.
the body. And, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't describe it, but it's like when you are fully healthy, people are living in tune with their values. They are
That's
in
it.
integrity with their soul spirit.
Yep.
They are, they're the hands and the feet. I mean, they are
Yeah.
surrendered. They aren't fighting and resisting life. You know what I
It's
mean?
rest. It's
They're
rest.
Yes, and they're
Yeah.
growing, and there's peace, and
Yeah.
there's love, and there's joy, and it's like
Yeah.
enlightenment, right?
Yes.
When
All
we
the
are
things.
when we are approaching
Yes.
life in a healthy way by design, honoring the design,
Yes. The
um,
divine design. That's it. And our natural rhythms and
it
all the
all
things.
flows. Yes,
Yes.
and we
Let me,
truly experience joy.
oh, so beautiful. I
The
love it.
joy of the
And
Lord is my strength. Yes,
that's it. That's it. And you ooze that. And I love that about you. You are just so much light in this world. And thank you for what you do. And thank you for having the courage, because not everybody does. And thank you for being the one who went, the warrior that went ahead and who can now give back. And that's the gift for all of us when we are willing to do the work, the hard work, that with the Holy Spirit's help, though, is not as hard. Let's say that.
yes, very much.
And but we when we do heal, then we can give what we have been, what we have received, and it's such a beautiful way of living that is so much more meaningful. Let
Yeah.
me switch gears for just a second, because I coach healers. I am passionate about coaching healers to build the business that I coach other Christian business owners too, of different kinds. But being a healer, I have an affinity and a love and a special connection to other healers. Um, and how we show up in business and the struggles and the challenges that we have, but also how do we begin to, how can we live in victory and our, and lead our businesses from a victorious place too. And so I want to ask you, what has, how have you learned, not assuming that you have it all down perfectly, but what have you learned about leading your business from an aligned place, from a regulated place with your nervous system, from an empowered place, from a spirit-led leadership way of leading your business? How has that shifted? What have you learned, and how has it changed over time, that finally allows you to live and lead in joy and freedom and fulfillment and impact and ease, all the things that God intended for us, because we don't have to partner with the other.
Amen.
Yeah.
Oh, and it has been a journey, and I've done it the other way, man. And I've crashed and burned a few times, and it's
of course,
I'm so grateful to be able to operate here. And two things came to my heart as you asked that. One being, I wish I would have known sooner what slow down meant, and like how to do it and how much to slow down, and what that really looks like for me. That I see so helpful for people is like, we don't pause to actually ask the questions. It's almost like we just assume how it should go or what we should do. We're like just caught up in it. And it's really when I slowed down and took a pause and started asking everything. Like, what are the supportive hours for me? And I sit with it and I'm like, is it working before 7 a.m.?
Yes.
No. Okay. Is it working before 8 a.m.? No, that doesn't feel good. Is it okay? Right. Is it working like at 9:30? And then I'm like, oh yes, everything said yes. My spirit says yes. Yes. Like literally.
It's listening. It really is asking and listening in your spirit and listening in your body. But if you're in a dysregulated state and in stress and reactivity constantly, you can't hear what feels right for you or not, or you're going to push past it and do something different. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's just so passionate about this.
That's where you come in, because it's almost like they're so caught up in it. They don't even think to ask the question. So if they can have somebody ask the good questions and hold the container for them to be able to listen. That is so powerful. And I think honestly, that's the thing I go back to is like, well, did I check in my spirit? Did I check in my heart? And I'm constantly asking clients when they flare up, I'm like, well, did you check in your heart first? Did you check in your spirit? Like, oh, I just went along with it. So that's the thing, is actually ask your spirit, like everything. Like things you wouldn't even think. When do I need a lunch break today? Is this client who I'm supposed to work with? How do I want to conduct my free consults? When do I need to network or not? Is this the networking group I'm supposed to join or not? Like everything, ask.
Yes. But we make decisions from meeting others' expectations and fear of loss. So we're playing to lose. We're in this playing to lose strategy of our business, not ever asking our spirit for the real answers that we need, and trusting that we're going to have everything that we need. And actually, we're going to be more abundant and more efficient and more effective and more nourished and able to give more and serve more out of that place of overflow and nourishment if we will listen. But doing it the other way is not working for us.
No,
it's loss aversive. It's playing to lose in our business, not playing to win. But you're right. But go ahead. So,
because then I see the clients who maybe they come to me after the fact, like there's a problem, there's a breakdown, there's a flare up in the body.
Right.
And my favorite question, which they hate, is like, well, when was the first time you knew that wasn't supportive? And every single time they knew beforehand. We always know, right? God always gives us the door out. And it's like, we always know, but we're not listening. So it's learning to listen. And the second thing that came is, oh man, it's the willingness and the tenacity to dig. So wherever my emotional experience is not lining up with what I know to be true, that's where there is healing work for me to do. Okay, so I know God is loving. Do I feel loving? Do I feel loved unconditionally?
Right.
time out then. Well, what do I really believe, right? And it's digging into
Yep.
the deepest unconscious beliefs, shadow work, right? Bringing all the unconscious stuff conscious
Yep.
so that we can heal it
Yep.
and bring it to the light. And so
That's it.
I love what you do because our business is just another mirror to ourselves. Our body is
Sure.
just another mirror to our relationship to ourselves.
Yep.
And we have to be willing to dig to the uncomfortable things like, do you think I love admitting, oh my gosh, then I don't really believe God is love and God loves me if I don't feel loved. To
Right.
admit, no, I don't believe what I'm professing to believe takes such commitment. But that
Yes.
level of self honesty is actually where the real root healing is being willing to know what are my unconscious beliefs and am I willing
Yeah.
to be freaked out to know that they don't line up with scripture? Yes, I would rather know that than not know that and pretend it was different because I really want
Right.
to be aligned, mind, body, spirit, soul, and to have those,
Yeah.
the truth be what is resonating in my cells.
And like we were talking about beforehand, before even the interview, you came on and said, I am just experiencing the goodness of God today, not just knowing it, like you said. And we want to be able to, and we can't live that every single day, every moment. There's going to be places where we feel a little disconnected or we can't see it or we can't, we feel a little bit in the dark to what God's doing, but we can experience it for the most part on a regular basis, but we have to be willing to do the work to get in touch with ourselves and in touch with him and attune to that so
Yeah.
that we can experience that at a whole nother experiential level rather than just a intellectual knowing. You're
Yep. And
exactly
it's
right.
even in the heart.
Yeah.
It's not like I just am experiencing these blissful emotions. It's that
Right.
even in the real hard stuff of life, I'm
Yes.
still at peace and knowing, oh, this is
Yes.
all for my good. This is all for my growth. This is working in positive ways in my life, not just saying it, like literally knowing
Right.
it. And that actually comes when we feel safe, when we are in a
That's
regulated state. We have
that's
a
exactly.
broader perspective. We can see the big picture and we can actually stay in that solution oriented, creative problem solving. Like we can
Yep.
see the silver lining even through the tough. I can actually sit with pain now. Whereas in survival mode, I would tune it out, suppress it, repress it, try to eat it away, whatever,
Absolutely.
spend money on it, And now if
Yes.
I can actually sit with and completely be with the human experience of fear or pain or grief or loss or anger and
Yeah.
have that enough love and acceptance of that this is part of the
Yes.
human experience and to be able to bring that love and knowing and trust even in the midst of that. And I think that's the true mark of living
That
in the
is.
parasympathetic nervous system.
That's so true. Oh, I love that. And you explain it so clearly. I just,
Oh,
it's so, and you've given some really practical ways of getting to it. And, and so last question, or actually a couple more small little questions, but, so, what the person out there who's still, says, yes, but I don't have time to live like that. That must be nice. Must be, the people who are still living in the stress and the struggle and the survival and the daily just getting by. And they're like, I don't have time to deal with that. I don't even know I don't even know how to get there. I don't even begin to, this is my only way. This feels like I have to stay here because the bills have to get paid because can't let my family down. I can't, I don't have the luxury of that. What do you say to that person and in your heart, I know is encouragement, but
yes.
because I want that person, that's my heart for people is we have got to have enough and we've got to be willing to fight for something different. And we don't have to do it out of a fight, but we've got to decide we want something, that we are hungry enough for something more,
Yes.
for the life that that Jesus came to give us rather than the life that we've settled for. But we have to fight for it. And
Yes.
so what do you say to them today?
Mm. Hey, I feel you. And that
Yes.
is that is what life in the sympathetic is. Like that is
Right.
literally the description of being in survival mode. That
Right.
is how life occurs through the lens of being dysregulated. Like literally,
Yes.
that is a
Yes.
perfect description. And I tell people a few things is, you know, what we want to transform the most is
Yeah.
actually what our minds use as an excuse to get in the
That's
way. So literally that's probably the thing that that person would want to experience differently the most, right? Is a life
yes.
without all that, right? Where it's like, oh, I do
Yes.
have time and I am blah, 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 and I do have options and I can't afford the luxury. Well, exactly. And so the mind isn't going to see its way out. Darkness isn't going to see its way out of darkness, right?
That's right.
So, and I tell people too, look, you have to reach rock bottom in order to change. But the beautiful thing is rock bottom is actually a choice. It is a
That's right.
choice. This is rock bottom. And the pain of staying where I am in this, now that I see it for what it is, now that I
Yes.
can see the mechanism that I'm caught up in that I didn't even realize, the pain of staying there has to be greater than the pain it's going to take to advocate for myself and to change some things.
That's exactly.
But there is a
Yes.
way out. And so really, I just point them like, look, get real honest about what life is like through the lens of survival mode. And then you can
Yeah.
actually decide, do I want to stay here?
That's so good. Oh, wow.
Said in love.
So absolutely. And you said it in love. Absolutely. And listen, you and I've been there. I was that person who had all those reasons and excuses and who kept myself there for years and years and years because, and I had all the excuses and I'm the single woman. I have no one to, I live paycheck to paycheck. I'm the, I have to give to everybody else. I mean, there was every excuse in the book. But when I got over my own excuses and was willing to get out of my own way is when everything began to change. And I wanted something more. I wanted something more than my excuses and the survival that were keeping me there.
Yes.
So
and
thank you. Thank you for
the
sharing that.
people in our lives that we love, are they getting the best of us? No.
Right.
So, I mean, really,
Right.
if it's really about the ones you love and it's really about the things that you need to do in life, are you going to do
Right.
it as a burnt out, bitter person? Because
That's
the bitterness
exactly right.
builds up, or are
That's
you
it.
going to take care of your vessel, your tree, so it can actually bear fruit that is a blessing to other people? And to me, it's like becoming healthy, or for you becoming, who you are truly meant to be in your design, in your business dealings. Like that is the
Yes.
best gift we could give to the people in our lives, because then they are
Yeah.
getting the full version with a full heart, right? And it's not what
That's
we
it.
do. It's the condition of our heart that bears the fruit, and that's what people feel.
That's exactly right. And then that's where the abundance pours out. And
Yes.
and it's not that God is withholding from us and not saying, well, I'm not going to bless her or him because they're not getting it right. It's that we are in the way, and that very stuff in us that we're holding on to, those patterns, that dysregulation is blocking the flow of what God has already said. This is yours, but you're in the way. Like and he's not withholding. He's not punishing. He just is waiting for us to move out of the way because he gives us free will. We're either going to block it or we're going to receive it. And living in survival mode blocks it every single time. Even though we think we're being so productive, we're not.
Yes. Amen. I see it all the time.
We're fooling ourselves. That's exactly right. Yes. Well, I want to end with you sharing how people can learn more about you and get in touch with you, connect with you further if they're interested in your program, in the healing that you offer. That is so beautiful. So would you share that? And we'll also make sure that that's in the show notes, but share that with us.
Yes, thanks so much. The best place is probably our website, which is Chronic Illness Solution. And we say it's solution singular because it's you.
Singular.
You are the solution.
The solution.
chronicillnesssolution.com. And you can schedule your free sessions directly on our website. And what's beautiful is we don't just do a free consult and review all your medical records and see what your doctors missed. Like, literally
Yeah.
practically the test. But we also do a couple nervous system processes with each person so that they can experience it. And also we can see, is their nervous system in a place where they can do
Wow.
this work, right? And if not, that's fine.
Right.
We'll send some referrals and resources your way, but it's a great way to come and experience it yourself in your own body, in your own being, and to uncover
Yes.
those unconscious blocks that then you can know what you're
Yes.
facing. And so we love to
Yeah.
give that away. We just love it.
I love hearing that. And I just know the work that you do. And I have just, it's been an absolute joy and a pleasure to see. You are not only, you're one of those healers that loves people, loves the Lord, and you walk the talk, and you are a giver. You are, you just have the most beautiful heart. And I just couldn't say enough good about you, and am so grateful that you spent this time with me today and this time with our listeners. And so thank you. Thanks for being here and for sharing all this wisdom and the way that you shared. And thank you for being you in this world,
Thank you
the
so
light that
much,
you are.
honey. I feel the same about you, and it resonates so deeply to
Oh,
be with you. And I'm sending love
oh,
to you, to all the
thank you.
listeners. And it is such a gift, and it fills me up to be able to share hope with people. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. Well, we really appreciate it, and enjoyed having you. And you guys, there is hope. There is so much hope. We just have to grab hold of it. And if you are, if this is resonating with you and you want to reach out to Michal, please do that. Don't listen to the voice that is trying to protect you and keep you in the same little old life that is giving you all the reasons why not to. Listen to the voice, the inner voice that is telling you yes, because you're worth it, because you are. And if it's a situation in your life or your business or any other area of your existence other than medical that you would like adjustments in, and you really want to build that spirit-led, aligned life of ease and joy, then reach out. I'm happy to, I love to walk that out with you and guide you along in your journey in that. And so, and if this episode or any of the other episodes have spurred you on or equipped you or have empowered you or inspired you in any way, then I hope that you'll share them with a loved one or someone that just comes to your mind. Lord, bring someone to their mind right now that needs this, and just give them courage to send it. And God, we just thank you for your faithfulness. We thank you for your goodness. And we thank you that you are the healer, that you are the provider, that you are the all sustainer, that you are such a good father. And so we say amen to that and let it be so. And wherever you guys are in your day, I hope that you are lifted up by this, and that your eyes are opened and that your hearts are opened, and that you can receive more of his goodness. And we will see you right back here next time on the Free to Soar podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We love you guys. Thanks for joining me today on the Free to Soar podcast, where we empower and equip you to lead the business and the life of your dreams with freedom, impact, enjoyment, and abundance. I look forward to our next episode together, and I invite you to subscribe to be notified of new episodes as they are released. Please share this or your favorite episode with a friend or a loved one, and I'd love it if you'd leave a review on iTunes and Spotify.